Well, today is a very exciting day because the postman has just been and I've just been delivered my own Super Nintendo Classic Mini. Now, I'm just going to get this out of the way straight away. This is not going to be a full review of this system because basically any retro gaming YouTuber is going to have their own version of a review up within a couple of days and they're all going to be pretty much the same. So this is just going to be a bit of an unboxing and my first impressions of the system. Now obviously I have the European version, which unlike the American version is styled more like the Japanese Super Famicom, and I do have an original Super Nintendo and Super Famicom here, so I can compare them when I get this open. Now this includes two of the original European controllers, which are the 4-button coloured controllers, unlike the purple and lavender ones of the American one. They also have a completely convex, I can't never remember the two, but unlike the American controller, all the buttons are the same, they're just differently coloured. So we'll see how closely this relates to the original controller when we get it open. Now, it does say on the box that this doesn't include an AC adapter. I think the American one did. I'm not too sure about that, but I have seen some early unboxings that included it, although I don't know if they just added it in or they bought it as an optional extra. I don't really know. And obviously it talks about the 20+1 games, as if we look on the back, we can see a lot of the original Super Nintendo games that are included on this, including Starfox 2, which is a full release rather than the ROM hack that was out there. Not the ROM hack, I should say, but the leaked ROM, which we never really knew how complete that was. We can see on the back of the box that it does use the American name for games. So, for example, Starfox over here, although it does say in brackets Star Wing, Kirby Superstar, which is in brackets Kirby's Fun Pack, and obviously there are some games that we just didn't get in Europe, like Earthbound up here, and also Super Mario RPG. I didn't actually know it was called Legend of the Seven Stars, but there you go. So if we start to unbox this, we get a little bit of reflection from the box lights up above. In fact, one thing to note is this box is probably about the same size as an original Super Nintendo. Let's turn it right way up. Okay, so we have an original manual that looks, or we have a manual that looks a little bit like the original. That'll be the system there, but firstly, let's take a look at our controllers here. Well, they certainly do look a lot like the originals. I think some of the buttons, like the directional button, do look a little bit matte, and it feels a little bit more textured, but that could just be that the one I have here has been well played with. It's a lot more sort of shiny and the texture's gone off the directional button, but it could just be that, yeah, it's been played with quite a lot, this one. It does feel a lot like the original, but then again it does also feel a little bit like some of those USB PC versions that you get, and also there are a few slightly different stylings on it, but all in all pretty similar to the original, and obviously you do get two of them. Now obviously you'll notice that these are not the same sort of controller port as on the original. As you see on the original over here, we have this quite large chunky port which goes into the consoles, which again I'll show in a sec. But with these, they are the same inputs as on the Nintendo, the NES Classic Edition, as they are also for the Wii, and you can also plug these into the Wii and I believe the Wii U via a Wii controller, so you can use it on virtual console games as well. So we have our two controllers. That's another one in there. We have the system itself, which I'll get out in a sec, and let's see what we have under here. We have a HDMI cable that comes with it. Is it a Nintendo branded one? I don't think it is. Well, maybe it is. And also the USB cable for it, although there is no plug for it. I think this is probably micro USB, is it? Let's have a look. Yes, micro USB, so a little bit like an Android phone charger, so that I will have to find a plug for, but that's fine. And of course we have, let's get this box out of the way, the system itself, which feels very small, and it's actually quite strange looking at it. It does look It almost looks like something that's been 3D printed as opposed to an actual official release. It obviously has the cartridge slot, which doesn't open, although it is a separate piece of plastic, and the eject button doesn't work either, but there is the reset button and there is the on-off switch, which is pretty similar to the original design as well. Now, if I get some of these cables out of the way and some of this packaging out of the way, we can start to bring in a few comparisons with the original. I'll zoom out and give you a better look at some of these. But if we take a look at the serial ports, or not the serial ports, sorry, the controller ports at the front here, you can see the big chunky ports that would take this controller. With this, of course, rather than the Wii port going into here, it should, what is it, lift up or lift down? There we go. It's sort of lift up and out. So you've got your Wii ports in there, and then they sort of it's actually a little bit clunky because it's not like you unclip them. It's that sort of it's on a little tab. But that's fair enough. You know, with the NES Classic Edition, it was a little bit easier to integrate these ports as they weren't a million miles away from what the original looked like. But with this, if you wanted to keep the same sort of design, you had to do this little flap at the front, which is not the most elegant in the world, but you know, it works. So if I zoom out, I can actually give you a better look at what these two consoles look side by side, and even in terms of size comparison, you can see just how small the SNES Classic, I should say, is to the original. But it's pretty faithful to the original design. Obviously this one is pretty yellowed now, but if I sort of take this one out and bring in the Super Famicom, which is in a little bit better shape, you get a little bit more of a better sense of it in terms of how it's styled and the sort of size of it as well. It's been pretty faithful to the original. Obviously there are a few little styling differences. There's no power thing above the light over here, and obviously the cartridge slot doesn't open, nor does it have any markings on it, but that's not that surprising really. And then obviously on the back, unlike the original, which has, if I put this down, the original has the AV out, but also an RF out, and then it has the DC in, and then it has a channel 1-2 switch on the back of the Super Famicom. I'm not sure if it has that on the back of the Super Nintendo, and well, it doesn't. On the back of the Super Nintendo, it's literally just, if I try and, it's a little bit dark on the camera there, but it's AV out, RF out, and power. Whereas obviously with this one, it's a much simplified version. You've got the HDMI over here, and then you've got the power in from the USB mini cable. But obviously one of the biggest selling points of this is the fact that even though you can get a lot of these games on the Virtual Console, it is a nice little tight package that these are put into, and it's a nice thing to have in your living room. But also the biggest point of this is that it has the unreleased version of Starfox 2. So let's plug this in and take a look at the interface. So the first thing to note is that the controller cable length is actually fairly decent. That was the biggest problem, or one of the biggest problems with the NES Classic Edition. You had to have the system really close to you. This one is at least decent length, where I've got it on the table here and I can sit back on the couch and play it. Now obviously you'll notice that the actually as it goes into a demo mode here, I've left it running for so long whilst I've been setting up the cameras. What it actually does is, if you leave it for a minute or so, Super Mario will appear on the screen and he will select a game for you, and it will go into demo mode. I'm assuming to get out of this, I press Start, or no, B. Okay, and you'll see that the interface is fairly similar to the NES Classic Edition. Obviously, we've got a couple new borders that look more like the Super Nintendo, and it's with this version, it's the European version of the Super Nintendo. I haven't seen the interface on the US version. I'm guessing it looks more like the bulky, more purple and lavender, I think it is, Super Nintendo. And obviously we have Donkey Kong Country, Earthbound, F-Zero, Final Fantasy III, which I think is 6 in Japan, is that right? Kirby Superstar, which we would know as Kirby's Fun Pack, Kirby's Dream Course, which was also known as Kirby Bowl, Mega Man X, Secret of Mana, Star Fox, or Star Wing as we knew it, and Star Fox 2, which obviously was one of the big selling points. For this game, you do actually have to unlock it, and it says there, clear stage 1 in Star Fox to unlock. So it's not that hard to unlock it. One thing that's worth noting is that this game has already been dumped. I think a few people got a review copy of this console in America, and they've already dumped the ROM, and it works. I've already tried it, and I'll show you some of the footage. I'll overlay it in in how I'm talking now. So you've got Starfox and Starfox 2. You do have to unlock Starfox 2, but it's pretty easy to do so. All you need to do is clear stage 1. One thing that's also worth noting is Starfox 2 actually has a manual for it. Nintendo have created a proper, full manual, although it's more in the form of like a mini site on the Nintendo website, which goes through, some of the artwork, some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, gives you the story of the game, things like a proper manual rather than the more sort of technical documents that you kind of get with the 3DS and Wii U these days. We got Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 Turbo, I should say, Castlevania 4, Super Ghouls and Ghosts, Super Mario Kart, Super Mario RPG, Super Mario World, Super Metroid, Super Punch-Out, all the Supers, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, Yoshi's Island, Contra 3, and then back to Donkey Kong Country. And you'll also notice that with this, because one of the big issues with the NES Classic Edition was that although you could put 2 controllers into the system, they seem to produce a lot less of that second controller, and the second controller actually became kind of harder to find than the actual console, and for a while you could actually end up paying more for the controller than you could for the console, which was crazy. This comes with 2 controllers, and you can see quite clearly on the screen here which ones are 2 players. So Contra 3 you can play 2 player, Donkey Kong Country, obviously there's games like where are we? Street Fighter 2, which is probably going to be the one that a lot of people gravitate to as the 2-player game. Now, obviously, as I say, this isn't going to be a full in-depth review. I'm just going to show you a little bit of what it looks like, and then we'll leave it at that. So, I think for now, well, I'll tell you what, let's do Starfox as we're here. Okay, it's just gone straight into the game. Hang on, if I want to actually see what some of the options are. I'm assuming I then have to press the reset button to get back to it. Yes, it is. Okay, so it's got a suspend point of where I was, so I can just go back and start the game where it was. But if I was going to go, here we go, display. Okay, so similarly to the NES Classic Edition, we've got a few different options. We've got 4:3, which is what people will be most familiar with if they remember these games, because all TVs used to be 4:3 aspect ratio. You've got a pixel perfect, which is basically just squares everything off. It's a little bit more, a little bit less stretched out. And you have a CRT filter to kind of simulate a little bit of what it would look like on an original TV, which I'm going to do because I actually like the CRT filter. And then we've got a few frames as well. We've got some coloured ones. I'm guessing there's going to be one that looks like an old TV. Is that one? We've got some speakers. And we don't actually have that many. I'm quite surprised. Okay, let's go with the nice sort of blue outer glow. Go back and I can do my suspend point. I don't want to save it, I just want to go into it. So press start, and there we go, and we're in Starfox. So you can see it kind of gives a little bit of a scan line effect. I personally find it looks better than the original, sort of just looking like an HDMI upgrade. I can see straight away that this is the American version of the ROM, because you see on the controller there, it's got the purple colour on the controllers. I've never actually played the original Starfox, so I don't know what controller I want. I'm guessing, let's have a look. Break, blaster, no, where's Nova Blaster? Yeah, that looks right, okay. I'm going to go straight into the game. I'm going to avoid training because I kind of want to see if I can unlock Starfox 2. Okay. Canaria. Okay, stage 1. I don't really know what I'm doing with this game because, as I say, I never really played Starfox. I never had a Super Nintendo growing up. I've said it a few times on videos. The NES and the Super Nintendo don't have that nostalgic hit for me because I never had them. The Atari ST was my first console, and I actually plan to do a video on that at some point because I've still got my original console. It's just that it doesn't seem to be working. I think a capacitor's gone or something. But I will get to that at some point. But for me, yeah, I think if Nintendo did an N64 Classic Edition, which I think a lot of people think that they are going to do at some point, then I'm sure that that would have the same thing. For me, this is just this is playing these games for the first time, really. I have played Starfox a couple of times, but only really in my lunch break, as we used to have a Super Nintendo set up on a CRT TV in the Sega office. So when I worked there, I used to plug in some Super Nintendo games every now and then, but only have a short play on them. And also, I have as I showed you, I've got a European Super Nintendo which I can plug into my CRT TV that I have in the studio here, but my Super Famicom won't work on that TV. It's an NTSC console on a PAL TV, and I've had people say in the comments sometimes that you can get them to work. Sometimes some PAL TVs are able to take NTSC consoles. I've never managed to do that, so I have to plug it into my modern TV, which doesn't look that great. Oh, there we go. An SD console on an HD TV just doesn't look that great unless you have some sort of upscaler. But even then, I'm not really a fan of just upscaled original graphics. I like the CRT look. That's why I've gone with the CRT filter on this. So that's why with things like Emulation Station, I don't actually like the look of some of those games. Okay, I don't know what to do. Oh, okay, I'm coming to the boss. So I don't really know how to take this boss down, but presumably if I manage to do this, then I unlock Starfox 2. So what am I doing? Did I just hurt myself? Okay, I think I'm out of bombs. But oh! My shield's pretty low. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? Oh, is that it? Have I done it? Okay, I think that's stage 1 clear. So that should mean that we've unlocked Starfox 2. I'm guessing. All ships check in. Stage 1 clear. Okay, so I'm guessing now if I was to press the reset button, or actually no, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait until. Are we clear? Stage 1 clear? Okay, stage 1 clear. So if I press the reset button now, we should get to Starfox 2, and there we go. Starfox 2 has been unlocked. I'm not going to go into great detail on this because obviously, as I say, there's going to be pretty much every retro gamer on YouTube is going to be playing through Starfox 2 at some point and comparing it to the leaked version out there. So I'm not going to go into that. This is just my first impressions to give you a little bit of a feel for the console. There's going to be a lot of unboxings and things of the American version. There's not going to be as many for the European version. So I thought I'd just give you a little bit of an overview on day 1, as it's literally just come through the post-op box about half an hour ago. So that's it. That's the end of this video. I'm sure there will be more in-depth reviews at some point, but until next time, guys, I'll see you later.